Welcome to my channel. In this topic I will talk about how to send GL journal for approval if attachment are added, and if attachment is not there, is not added, the auto reject will be raised. For example, I'm going to raise or create GL journal. There is one attachment. In case the users attached the attachment, it will go and follow the journal approval rule. In case of there is no any attachment, the journal approval status will be auto reject automatically without following the GL journal approval. First of saying that maybe you think to do attachment field as a mandatory. So in this case, no need to create journal approval rule based on attachment. So once I make it mandatory, the user cannot submit it or post it or submit it for approval until he attached the attachment. In this case, the attachment field, it will make like a mandatory but without any validation. So we will talk about this point now. Now for BBM task, as you know that journal approval rule creation, there are two type or two methods: through BPM, business process management, or through journal approval spreadsheet as a SRC. The attachment on GL, there are two type or two level of attachment. You can find this attachment field at journal patch and journal header. In case of you create BPM task, so journal patch attachment is not work. So you have to build your journal approval rule based on journal header attachment. Like this condition, task payload add attachment status top uppercase is success. There is no available condition to check only at journal patch level. As we said, that attachment cannot be set as required. This is the limitation at this point. We can do it through Sandbox. We will do it later. You can customize it as show as required, which so will not impose required field validation. This option just adds an asterisk but doesn't enforce validation, doesn't enforce the users to attach the attachment. It's just like asterisk without any enforce. The workaround, just log into Visual Applications, enable Sandbox, page composer, and make attachment as required. Just like, let's get into application. We are here. Just in case of you need to create a sandbox, just go to tools, configuration. Once you go to configuration, sandbox, create a sandbox and enter, for example, GL journal attach required. Just select all, but at least don't forget to select page composer. You can select at least page composer without all of these, but I need to select all. But the page composer is a very important choice here. Create. You can create and then enter, or create and enter. This is our journal sandbox. you can enter Sandbox. Once you enter, it must be displays here or pop up like you currently entered in this Sandbox. Just come back to the GL journal, which is your form, journals. I just need to create a journal. I already did it before to mandatory here. As I told you, there are two attachments. This is the journal badge. There is one attachment. This is the journal header. Once you click on show more, you will find another attachment. In case of you build your BPM task rule based on this, it will not work. But you have to build based on journal header attachment field. Now, in case of I need to make this attachment either required or not, just click on your user, edit pages. This or any other field, you need to make it displayed, hidden, required, not required. Then before of that, just the system will ask you to enter any data. So I will enter any random data, for example, okay, then and the second line as a credit and enter this one. Click on structure, come here, try to press on the field. Just I click, edit, okay, edit. You will see here that the panel label and the message attachment. So once you click or press on the proper field, to ensure that you already selected the, for example in our case here, the attachment, you will find here panel label and message attachment. Then go to this pen as show the properties of attachment. Then you will find our what is the label attachment. Yes, now we are using our attachment. Here show required. Show required either once you selected enabled, it will be required. Once you disabled, it will not be required. After that, once you enabled or not or whatever, I will cancel because we already enabled. You have to close and you have to publish the sandbox. Once you published, again come back to here, you will find it's required. Now I will leave sandbox. Yes. This is the first point, that I need to make it mandatory, so the users will not submit it until he attach the attachment. But we said this validation is not there. How to do this? I am going now to create a journal. Attachment here is required, but I will not attach any file. Select ledger. What is the debit account, credit account, and I will try to submit to check this validation is work or not work. Again this and 1505 for example. The second line as a credit, any account, and 1505. That's it. I didn't attach any file. Try to save, try to boost and create another. It is giving you that it's require approval. I'll forward for approval. What does it mean? This validation or attachment field validation not working. So the first solution is not work. In case of you make it required, the users can forget and he can post it for approval or posted directly without approvals without attach any file. In case of I'm going to manage journal to check my journals, is it still not posted on approval? In case this is our 1505 journal, click on it, then you will find it's in process. What is the attachment? None. It's required. So this is how to make it as required through Sandbox, and how is validation is work or not work. Maybe now this version is 25p at the second quarter of 2025 year. Maybe in futures these validations will work, because as you know now every quarter there are what's new. Maybe Oracle enabled it in future. So let's continue. To send for approval, you have to build, for example, BPM workflow rule to include this condition, or like this condition, that task.payload.add attachment status to uppercase isn't success. Isn't success means that the attachment is not there, so the auto reject rule or condition will fire or will raised to make the journal approval status as auto reject automatically. But as you know that to configure it through tasks or BPM, as I told you before, just search or go to administration configurations, then select or search for find GL or GL journal, select find GL journal approval, select assignee, and create your, for example, auto reject. In the conditions, what I told you to mention, task.payload.attachment status uppercase isn't, which is the isn't equal or whatever, and put isn't success between two brackets. Then you have to auto action reject and rule name and null. This is auto action enabled, yes. What is the auto action in this case? In case of there is no attachment is attached, it will be auto reject. But if the journal task doesn't have attached and attachment, the system will reject automatically, and these conditions or this task condition is not supported by SRC journal approval spreadsheet, because later we will see that in case of I don't have or the option to create or edit BPM workflow is not there. Like what? This message. As you know that I think from 23b until now, when you try to create a BPM work list for AB or GL through this BPM work list, once you click and select whatever GL journal, AB invoice approval, you will face use manage workflow rules in spreadsheet task to configure the workflow rules for this workflow. First of thing is that new users of this workflow will not be able to access assignee tabs for two things: AB invoice, GL journal approval in BPM. Users will be redirected to manage rules in spreadsheet task page. Existing customers who are using invoice and journal approval in all of their boards will keep having access to BPM for setting approval rules as before. In case of you create your AB invoice approval or GL journal approval before through BPM, you still have access to the theme. Existing customers who have used either of the workflow in test or dev board but not migrated changes to production as BOD, access to assignees tab will again no longer be available to them. They will have the option to migrate approval rules of test or dev boots to SRC spreadsheets and use manage workflow rules using spreadsheet task page or configuring rules. So the previous slide that we mentioned, one payload attachment exists, is not success, whatever, this condition you cannot mention it in spreadsheet journal approval or AB approval. So this only can work very well through PBM. But in case of you face like this and you configured your approval through spreadsheet, you will cannot achieve this requirement. I have tried a lot of things through journal spreadsheets and is not, or all of them is failed. For example, I add configuration, advanced configurations, and select transform to uppercase, journal header attachment exists, indicator not yes, and I make it as you see here auto reject, and I give it name like no attachment. I have upload and again try, is not work. I have tried another thing is that I found attachment exists indicator on the journal header. I tried to make it null and no and yes or not yes, and it's the same the auto reject rule, no attachment, upload and tried and is not work. So by the end of this video you can achieve it only through PBM, through these conditions. Else through spreadsheets until now is not working. Maybe it will work for in future or what, or maybe in the next what's a new quarter, or maybe if you tried and it's working with you, it will be helpful for us if you share how it's work with you. Thanks for watching. Good luck.